What's going down, everyone? How you all doing today? My name is Adil. I'm an 18-year-old pharmacy student. I'm joined here by my co-host.
Eri, and me and Adil, like you said, we're both pharmacy undergrads. We met this September and we decided over the past few weeks that we should probably set up a podcast channel just so we could learn from each other, converse in a constructive manner, and hopefully reach out to you guys and answer any questions you have and learn from you as well. So yeah, that's about it. In terms of uni experience, Adil, how's it been like for you from the academics point of view and education? Have you spoken to anyone?
So I think basically university is it's a really unique environment. I think it's definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity. Now, saying that, it does have a lot of problems, a lot of benefits, a lot of problems, like anything in life. But I think in terms of the educational aspect, because let's be honest here, we're paying about £9,250 a year.
Yeah.
So I think, this obviously will be the first and main thing we're going to be talking about. And in terms of the educational aspect, it's pretty shit. I won't lie. Yeah, I don't know what you think. I mean,
I think that I'm very underwhelmed by the level of teaching. I think it was a lot more sort of focused on myself at sixth form, especially because my teachers cared for me more, whereas lecturers now they don't really even know your name until you shine in a specific way, or they've got to know you, or they're your advisor. So I think in terms of that, the first year, I don't know about second, third years or other courses, but for us, I think you'll agree, I think it's very much been sort of this broad way of teaching students, and it's not very based on individuals.
Yeah, I think it's really passive. That's what it is. School is a very active process. Pen, paper, one-to-one teaching. Class, questions and
definitely.
answers. Here, it's very passive. You just sit down, watch someone talk for a long time, and that's about it, really.
Yeah, I think that you're quite accurate there, because at school, for example, when I used to study history, chemistry and biology, and I'd done a bit of maths at AS, and what it was is you would learn a concept and then afterwards you would get a chance to either discuss it or you would get a chance to practice it, whereas now you sit in a lecture and you have to listen to someone, like you said, and then afterwards, unless you put your own time into it, the practice, so seminars or workshops, they're not especially like they're not very, you don't learn a lot from them, because it's just you go there and you have to do the work beforehand, which takes another good 2-3 hours for us anyway. So I don't know if that's the best way of doing it, but I think it's very much like you said, you sit down, it's passive, and some lecturers have absolutely poor speaking skills, and I think that goes without saying how important it is for lecturers to actually be able to relay the information onto students instead of just being good at the subject that they're teaching.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right with that, especially with the whole lecturer aspect, with the whole staff aspect. I think university is it's got a lot more variables than I thought it did. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of little things in uni that affect it. So let's say, for example, a lecturer's mood or something when they're marking a piece of work.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like something as little as that, which you wouldn't really associate with, formal education, something as little as that could really affect your grade. So if your lecturer is in a crappy mood and they just happen to be marking your exam, I have a feeling that will have a big impact.
Yeah. See, it's interesting you say that, because what I think is besides the sort of fluctuation in individual lecturers, I think there's a lot of differences in different lecturers as well. So, we have a module called Foundations in Pharmacy Practice, and so far what it seems is all our lecturers have different opinions on what certain things should be. So one lecturer would prefer a certain way of us delivering information, whereas another lecturer would tell us a certain thing. So we're very much in the middle. So we've got to the point where we have to know the lecturer in order to know what we should do.
Yeah.
And I think that's very unfair, because we're not exactly doing what we're best at or what we should do, what we think is best. We're doing the things that will get us the highest grades. And doing that is sort of, it's not what you expect from uni. At uni, you expect this sort of perfect education, if you like, because that's what it's sold to us from a young age. And I think when you get to the point where you are at uni and you realise that it's very much just based on what the lecturer's preferences, I think that's quite unfair on us anyway.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you said about the education, about the expectations we have, because I think that's a lot of the reason why we have a lot of problems in uni. It's that expectations we've had, you know, from films, from people talking about it, from books. Basically, from ever since we've started school, we've all had a perception of what university is like.
Exactly, yeah.
And then, with anything in life, when you have that expectation, when you have that kind of standard, you're always bound to, you know, be disappointed. And I think that's what it is.
Yeah, I definitely think it was. That's why I said I was underwhelmed from sort of year 9 onwards. That's when I picked my GCSEs. You're always thinking about uni and what you want to study, because it's so emphasised that uni is this perfect method of learning and research and socialising, whereas now when you come to uni you realise it's not, it's far from it. And the lecturers themselves, again, I can't emphasise enough how sort of little they do in order to go with the ideology that we've been taught about university, that it is this perfect education, whereas, like I said, the lecturers do not provide that. They just talk to us for 50 minutes to an hour, and I don't feel like that's the best way of us gaining education. And like you said at the start, when you're paying £9,250, you expect education to be more tailored towards you.
I think that's it, yeah.
And I know for a fact that's definitely more difficult on courses. So I have a lot of friends who study medicine, and their cohort is about, I think it's nearly 200 students, and it's obviously difficult to tailor education individually to that many people. But when it's smaller cohorts, like the pharmacy cohort, which is about 75 students, then you expect more. You expect more. So I learn through discussions, I learn through talking, and therefore I would like that more. But it's very much just you learn through hearing others, and you don't ever get the chance to practice it in the way that you want to. And I think that is definitely lacking at uni, and I thought it would be different. And I think another massive problem is I feel very isolated when it comes to studying. I don't feel like the lecturers, like I said at the start, they care. They don't really want you to do well individually. They just want this whole group of people to achieve. They don't really care on an individual level, whereas at sixth form they did. So in that sense, I prefer sixth form, because my teachers at sixth form actually cared for me succeeding, whereas now it's more just this group thing. And I don't know if I like that. I really don't know if I enjoy that part of university and the education side of university. Yeah,
and obviously, you know, some people might think, it might be just our lecturers or our uni, but I really do think it's a nationwide problem.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, apart from obviously the highest unis. So I know for Oxford and Cambridge, I don't think it's like that there. But I know that unis such as UEA, who are doing well on the league tables, but they're not... the nationwide university tables, but they're not exactly the best in terms of what I was expecting from uni.
It's interesting you say that as well, because I think maybe Oxford and Cambridge, they might even have a bigger problem. Because I think they have a higher expectation of their students. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, if you try to go to grammar school because they have better teaching, but really what it is that they just have better gifted students, and the teachers put less effort.
So,
you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. Obviously, we don't really know. This is all just from our experience. But I think, especially with our course, one thing we have a big problem with is how often they just chuck us in the deep end.
Yep, that is true.
You know, they'll give you an assignment, and yes, they'll give you information on it, but other than that, it's literally you're just on your own.
And just to clarify Adil's point, the problem is it's not stuff that you can learn either. So it's just these vague concepts that sort of the uni have for themselves. So we have something called a portfolio, and there's a lot of aspects to it that we need to fulfill, and you can't Google it because it's the concept is only at UEA. So you can't Google how to complete that portfolio. Whereas if it was like a theory in maths, then you can obviously find information on that, which is really unfair because, like you said, we're thrown in the deep end, and I think that leads to more stress on our behalf. What do you think about our deadlines? What do you think for the amount of work that uni students have to do, especially if they study a heavy going course with a lot of contact hours?
Well, I think I know what you think about it, but it's it's pretty crazy. Deadlines are pretty crazy. And I think we all knew that. We all did expect, obviously, you always hear about uni students and deadlines and all that. But I really do think, along with the whole chucking in the deep end, combination of that and the amount of deadlines we have, it does cause a lot of stress.
I agree. And just to elaborate on that point as well. So what I have a problem with is that the deadlines are based on what the lecturers and the course wants us to do. So the deadlines are very much just, we want you to finish this piece of evidence by this date. Whereas besides that, obviously we want to do our own research into pharmacy. I love doing research into drugs, okay, but I don't have time for that because I have to do the work that they want me to do. And in that sense, it almost feels like high school and sixth form again, where I have to do the work not because I want to, but because I have to not get penalised for it. And not having that freedom of learning what I want to learn is very demotivating, I think, because you almost, again, you start to resent it because you have to do it because they want you to. And that's the one part of university that I again really can't get my head around, because it's always been sold as this research orientated, you do whatever you want in terms of learning. And I don't know if that's our course, because I can imagine if it was something like English or history, you would be able to go out there and get your own resources, do the reading that you want to. But I think when it comes to our course, that is very limited. The amount of freedom you have is very limited. And I think you can even see that because we are registered. Yeah, that's right. We have registers. Therefore, we have to actually attend our lectures. Otherwise, we will get called up on by our advisors and then the head of school. So again, it feels like we aren't treated as adults because we aren't allowed to do what the research that we would prefer to do, and we aren't allowed to choose what is best for us in terms of the way we learn. Therefore, we have to attend lectures. And I think that's crazy, because we're 19, we've chosen to study at university, we've chosen a degree to study at university, but we have to go into lectures because there's this expectation of punctuation from us, and I think that's absolutely ludicrous.
And I'll give the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it's just our course, maybe it's just first year, maybe
the medics are like that as well.
Maybe second year, third year, they might give that freedom. So we don't know. Obviously, we're only 4 or 5 months in.
Yep.
So
maybe like 2/3 into.
Yeah, so to be honest, we're probably going to have quite a good few podcasts about uni, because obviously we're going to change. We're not exactly going to have the same opinions.
Obviously, that's true.
From the first. So this is kind of just based on the first 4 or 5 months of uni.
Therefore, it might be premature, the judgment.
Exactly.
But it's a judgment nonetheless for anyone planning to go to university and getting over the first 5 months barrier, I think.
Yeah, and you mentioned time, about how you don't have time to do stuff, and I think that's a big aspect of uni, just time management in general. It's just, I think one of the most difficult things about doing a degree is not the actual content, it's your organisation and your time management, and that in relation to your work and also your general happiness, your general growth as a human being. Because at the end of the day, it's all nice and honky-dory for us to go to uni and progress in our education, but if we're not progressing as people, especially at this age, it can be very demotivating, and that will affect our education.
Yeah, I totally agree when it comes to that, because I don't know, I was expecting university to be a place where I wouldn't just develop myself in terms of academic knowledge, but in terms of just knowing more about cultures and knowing more about other people and their interests. And I think you don't have time for that. And I know we've talked about this before, but it is the idea again of, so what we mentioned was there's a lot of people at university, so education cannot be tailored to individuals, right? Which is a massive problem for me anyway, because I don't learn in the way that they teach. But another problem which is created by having so many people is you get people who aren't willing to constructively be with each other, but see each other as competition. As competition. So I was reading a few articles on this, and what it says is it never used to be like that, because not as many people went to university, but because now, which is obviously a massive positive about this country, it's so easy to go to university, but at the same time that is a drawback, because now what is happening is people are not seeing friends on their course. What they are seeing instead are competition. Because at the end of the day, exactly. Once you do graduate and you have a degree, you need to compete with the people on your course to get a job, which for our course especially, I don't think it's that much of a problem because pharmacists tend to get jobs easier than a lot of other
the
degrees.
employability rate is thankfully quite high
on our side.
On our side, yeah.
But nonetheless, you do still get hostile relationships.
I think it's a subconscious thing, really.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's consciously malicious in the way.
Not this early anyway.
Not this early, at least. I think it is quite a subconscious thing because for everyone, you have to realize for everyone it's a completely new experience, and you have a wide variety of people, and everyone's
who want to do well. Who want to
do well, and everyone's gonna respond differently. Not one person is gonna respond to the environment the same way as another. So some people might respond in being over friendly or over welcoming, and that could shoot them in the foot. And then other people can be a lot more closed off, and that can also shoot you in the foot.
And I do think that it's very much on both sides. I don't think there's a lot of people who sit in the middle who are just sort of calm and composed when it comes to adapting to the uni life. I think a lot of people are overcompensating by becoming too friendly or not willing to integrate with their course or their friends at all. And I think that is quite a massive problem because either way you're not doing what I think is healthy for we're studying for 4 years. If you were to be on either side, then you're not doing the most beneficial thing for the 4 years of your life that are coming. So I think it's important to build the foundations firmly.
Yeah, because I did ask a few people, in general, what do they think about uni? And I think one of the biggest aspects was this whole again, it comes back to expectations. The expectation of one big, happy community, and everyone's receptive, and everyone's, eager to get to be friends with each other and learn and meet new people and stuff. And there are people like that. We're not saying everyone in uni is, completely hostile. But I think what we have found is that it's completely the same as like an American high school, where you have your cliques, you have your little certain circles, and it's quite hard to break that barrier. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of us expected, because I think I'm sure you did as well. I think before you came to uni, you had the mindset of, I'm gonna meet new people.
Yep.
I'm gonna be open-minded. I'm gonna be receptive. I'm gonna actively, make an effort to meet new people. But I think what I found is, and I thought everyone else would be like that as well, but what I found is not many people are like that. And if they are, it's very shallow. It's not really any...
Yeah, without sounding insulting.
Yeah, obviously, it's really shallow.
It is.
It is. A lot of your relationships in uni, you will find, are really shallow. It's quite hard to find meaningful friendships, whether it's friendships, relationships, whatever it is.
But again, that's because we are only in our 4 or 5 months.
Exactly.
I assume we're going to have close friends by the time we do finish uni. Well, hopefully anyway. But currently, that is the current situation. I think in terms of socializing, there are a lot of people who are either trying too hard or who don't want to be a part of university at all. And I think the most healthy is just because when you come to uni, you can make a lot of friends and they might be quite beneficial. But if you meet one friend one person who does not sort of see the positive side in you, that can make you feel really bad, because if you come to uni trying to impress people to befriend them, then what's going to happen if you meet one person who doesn't want to be friends with you? You're going to be massively disappointed with yourself, and that can be more detrimental than if you met 10 people who did like you. And I think the most positive way of socializing at uni, so I guess this is a word of advice, and it worked for me anyway. I don't know about you. It worked for me. It was just not trying too hard. If you're in an environment where you need to socialize, I think it's good to be outgoing, but you shouldn't go out of your way. That's my opinion. You shouldn't try your absolute best to almost force relationships with people, because I don't think that builds healthy foundations, and I don't think you will be able to get as much out of other people if you are building your foundations on trying too hard to be friends with people.
And it's really draining as well.
It is.
And uni in general is really draining. is really, you know, the deadlines, the education, and then you have this whole social aspect, and then obviously if you've moved out, you have, you know, your bills and your food and whatnot. It's, in general, it is a pretty draining experience, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, because I mean, I assume a lot of people who are moving out, so we both live away from home. Even though I don't live too far away, it's still quite draining because you go from your home where, besides going to and from school, you don't really have anything to do because everything is catered for, unless you have to, like, obviously do chores and stuff. But when you do come to uni, you have something on your mind at any given point which is serious. It's not like a sixth form where you think, oh, I've got to wake up early tomorrow, or I have to walk here, or it's genuinely serious stuff. So what am I going to cook for myself?
Just
or
little things
when
like
am I
that,
going to go shopping? Or am I going to get enough sleep before my lecture tomorrow? Or am I going to be able to wake up for my lecture tomorrow? I mean, even like going between lectures, am I going to have time to go pick up my parcel? And every single moment you have something on your mind which actually means something. And I think having to go from not organising anything to organising everything related with you, and then having enough time, say if you have a girlfriend or spending time with your friends or studying, then it's very, very stressful.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. Time management. That's what I think. That's the biggest part of the learning experience in uni. Is just learning how to manage everything. I think, to be honest, in my case personally, that's what I've been focusing mainly. It's not really the content. It's just learning how to learn the content as well as everything else in my life.
I think, yeah. Mm.
So that's basically what I've been, me personally, I've been trying to do, and I think a lot of people have as well.
Right. So moving on from that, I think another massive problem that I have with uni. I mean, everything we are talking about the negatives of uni. I promise there are some positives. But currently,
we'll get to them.
But currently, another massive problem that I have with uni is just the sheer amount of money that you need to spend. So I go out in moderate amounts. I don't spend too much money when I do go out. But besides that, so straight off the bat, I have to pay like £5,200 for accommodation, and obviously the tuition fees, which is a lot of money. And then anything you want to do at uni still costs money. So the first week of university,
in addition to that 9,250.
Yeah, exactly. So the first week of uni, I had to pay, I think it was like £50 to sign up to the gym, and then £30 to sign up to the rock climbing society.
Well, let me just stop you there. That's £50 for a membership to then pay more money to join an actual sport.
Yeah. So
it's not even the gym. I've joined the gym. The gym's £150, which is quite good for gym price. But let's not even get there.
Is that for a year?
Yeah, that's for a year. £150 for a year. But that's off peak. It's not 24/7, and that gym gets packed.
So did you actually have time to? Did you have to pay the £50 on top of that?
No, I didn't have to pay the £50 for the £50 is only when you want to. Well, this is for our uni, obviously. £50 only is when you have to join. Yeah. When you want to join a particular sport. So before you join that sport, you have to pay £50 initial, and then you have to pay that sport's membership fee.
The support society's membership, and that's what I mean. So that was what I had to pay for in the first week. But that's because I wanted to do that. But besides that, any society that you do want to join up for, then you do actually have to pay a small £5 fee.
£5 depends on the society.
And in general, university there's just a lot of money to.
I mean, there's printing. Printing's not included.
A massive money. Yeah.
Books. To be fair, I'm not really. That hasn't really affected me too much because I haven't really read that much.
Have you actually bought any books?
I've bought one book.
You've bought one,
and I regret buying it because I've only used it once, and I feel like I could have just borrowed it from the library. But I just thought, I'll just buy it, and that might force me to read it. But no.
I think for us, books are not important at all.
Yeah, I think. I mean, books in terms of the course. I mean, me and Ira, we love reading books that we want to read.
Yeah.
But the books, they obviously textbooks and all that. I think that's another story itself. They're just obsolete right now.
You do have some. I would argue, you do have some people who just go out of their way to buy every book they can,
or borrow every book,
or borrow every book. And I don't know if that's the best way, because I genuinely do not know how they get the time to do that. But
especially with these books as well. It's not like, you know, A-level or GCSE where you have one standard textbook that your exam board has endorsed and it's got everything you need. Here it's just like 5 different books this thick, and probably each book has about 10 pages of relevant information.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the problem. That is the problem. If you had one book that was, we had A-level books which contained all of our modules, and whereas you don't get that. But going back to the education point, so lectures we talked about, and what I had a problem with at the start of uni, I didn't actually have a laptop or a device which I could take into lectures with me, which meant that between lectures, if I wanted to study, I had to go to the library.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's just UEA library, but especially if you go around 12ish or after when people have their lectures, then it's significantly difficult to find a computer in an area which you can work. Or say if you want to study with a group of friends, it's difficult to find an area where you want to study with friends, which means I had to then buy I had to then buy a laptop to take into lectures, which is obviously good, but then that's an extra cost on top of that, because you can't go to the library and always guarantee something. If you want to play any sport, you have to pay more money, whether you have a membership or not. Obviously, the accommodation we talked about, then tuition fees, laundry, the shopping every week, the laundry.
Laundry is just something that I don't know about you, but I never thought of how much of a cost it really would be.
What is it like? £6-7 every time you want?
Yeah, it's about £2.80 for one wash, and then another £2 for dry. And
if you have obviously 2 batches,
and I normally go in 2 batches, so I do 2 washes and 1 dry. So that's what, £2.80 plus £2.80, £5.60, £7.60 per week and a half, 2 weeks. That shit adds up. That really does add up. So, you know, it's one big fat cost. I think that's what we're trying to say.
Accumulation, and unless you're organised, we have a few days a week where we come in from 9 to 5 or 10 to 5, or where we have like 4 hours at uni, and I'm a person who gets hungry easily, which means I probably spend around £5 or £6 every single day if I do have a long day at university, which is a problem for me, because obviously I'm living off of my maintenance loan.
Yeah.
And the more stuff that I actually do need to pay for, the less stuff I have. The less money I have to actually spend on necessities, such as food.
Such as like grocery food, not like the cheeky Nando's or something like that.
Yeah.
Like actual milk, bread, butter, all the basic.
Basically, the stuff that you take for granted when living at home.
When living at home, basically, yeah.
You expect when you open your fridge at home for there to be milk there, or when you open your cupboard for there to be cereal. But sometimes I wake up in the mornings and I forgot to buy bread and stuff like that, and I have to go into uni in order to feed myself. And when feeding yourself becomes a chore, that's when you realise that university isn't actually this perfect place that was sold to us since a young age. But moving on to the positives, I've got a few nice stuff to say. I genuinely see, at high school in sixth form, I was part of like performances, and we had to do rehearsals, and the final week we had to get together every single day, and we had summative exams, which are basically exams that mean something, the first week back from Christmas.
Yeah.
And what I found was every single day, we have quite a big friendship group on our course, so about 15-20 people, we would come together and we would study. And if I felt a part of a community, even though there were some examples of competitiveness which we did talk about, it was genuinely really nice to belong to a part of a group.
A group of people,
who all were driven by the same aim, to do well. And it felt like back in the time when I used to do performances, it felt like we were all rehearsing for this end sort of aim, and that felt really nice. Being a part of that group felt really nice, and I genuinely did enjoy studying with the people who were there, and that's definitely a positive. in times, almost difficult times, when you do have to focus mainly on studying, your priority is studying, you get to meet these people who are always in the library, who are always studying, and you get closer to them, and as a result you build stronger friendships because you went through the difficult times together, if you like.
I think that is true. And also another positive is, we've talked about the whole doing stuff that you've taken for granted at home, and I think I guess it depends on the type of person you are, but me personally, I do kind of like that independence kind of side of it. I do like to feel like, I'm doing stuff for myself. I'm going out, I'm buying the groceries I want, I'm doing stuff that I want to do, and I can do them myself. So because especially with obviously here in the West, I think a lot of us are quite sheltered at home. Well, not really sheltered, but like we are taken good care of, hopefully. Obviously not everyone, but I think for us to, we've had a decent upbringing, and I think living by ourselves out here is basically just helping us equip to,
the wider world.
Yeah, the wider world, yeah.
Post uni, when we actually have to think about marriage, if we do get married, and looking after people.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is, in that aspect, university does give a great opportunity to just grow in that aspect.
But I will just add to that. So I had a job. I was very much independent before I came to university, and I think you were as well.
Yeah.
But it can be seriously, it can be a burden if you are not used to doing things independently, and you can feel very isolated. And once that happens, and you don't feel the motivation to actually do the stuff that you need to do. And I think if you are not well equipped, if you don't have some sort of experience prior to uni, then you can definitely struggle when you come to uni, when you have to look after yourself.
Yeah, so I think us two, we haven't really had the problem with that side, but I can see how some people, obviously everyone's had a different upbringing and everyone's different, so I can see how that can be a source of a lot of misery for some people, something like that, something of just taking care of yourself. And I think also that kind of relates to something else that I want to talk about, which is basically the general feeling of loneliness you can get in uni.
Yeah.
It's a really weird feeling. I don't know if I can put it into words for you guys to understand. But it's something where there's such a sheer amount of people, such a sheer amount of opportunity, that it's really easy to feel lonely at the same time. Because I think back in your hometown, Thetford for you, my little community in East London, I think, if you felt lonely there, you would think, oh, it's just because, I've been in this school for how many years, I've been in this community a lot. Obviously, when I go out there, then I won't be lonely. I'll meet so many new people and stuff. But when you do come out here, which is this university or whatever university you go to, and you do come out here and you do meet new people and you still feel lonely, that's, I think, what crushes people.
Yeah, see, adding on to that point, I think the main reason for that is because you come from a place, so I come from Thetford, and there's not a lot of uni students who come from Thetford.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I'm very much unique from where I'm from. So there's only a handful of people who who leave sixth form to go to uni. But when you come to uni, you have, I don't know how many people study at UVA, but it's in the thousands, obviously very high. And because there are so many people who are driven by the motivation of a degree and who have the same aims, you can't look for. It's like I don't know. It's like looking in a field of wheat. You can't differentiate any one of them because they're all doing the same thing, and that's what it is at uni. You feel so isolated because everyone is the same. You feel almost unimportant because on the course, unless you're getting the top degrees, you're not going to be noticed. If you're not sort of around a group of friends, if you're not sort of the funny one or the one who does exciting things when they're drunk or goes out a lot, then you're not going to be noticed.
Exactly.
So unless you do the extremes, then it's very difficult to be noticed. But when you're sort of in the middle, you're not doing badly, but you're actually above average, then you're not noticed because there's so many people at that level, and you can feel isolated for that specific reason, which is quite ironic because uni is meant to be this place of socializing in this perfect community, but because of that community, you can feel isolated.
Yeah, exactly. It's really easy to, because of that level of intense amount of people and the number of people and the types of people, it is very easy to then kind of regress back into your little shell. Now, obviously, it depends on the person, but I think it's safe to say everyone, to some degree, feels a certain type of loneliness when it comes to uni.
I agree, because I don't think so. There's a lot of people who I know who go out most days together.
Yeah.
But even in that sense, I don't know if they know each other properly. So I'll just say, me and Adil, we don't drink, we don't go out. But I know that a lot of my friends, flatmates, old friends from sixth form, they do go out a lot. And I don't know if those kinds of friendships are the most healthiest, because you don't get to know or learn the people outside of drunken environments.
They're going out friends, basically. That's what they are.
Exactly.
And then if you're not going out, then they're just better off not being your friend at all, because that's how it is.
I mean, it might be. That's our observation.
Yeah.
There's a lot of friendships out there that are built on that kind of infrastructure that are positive, but from what we see, that is not the healthiest way. And I think maybe even spending too much time with people like that can be detrimental, because you enjoy sort of partying with them so much, you can't then be annoyed with them when it comes to certain things. So you don't want to lose their friendship, but at the same time, you don't enjoy yourself, like you said, when they're not drunk or when you're not drunk.
Yeah, it's almost like a completely different experience.
Yeah, almost. I mean, I guess it's very. This opinion may be inaccurate because we both don't drink.
Yeah, obviously, but this is just our, our kind of opinion on it.
Our observation from the outside.
Yeah, I think, especially with how many different type of people you can meet and how many friendships you can make, it's really hard to find those ones, that you think about, oh, this is a friend for life, or, this is someone I can connect with deeply. It's really hard to find that, I think. I think that's for everyone as well.
At this early stage, anyway.
At this early stage, yeah. Of course, it's early days.
You shouldn't come to uni expecting that, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, yeah. You shouldn't come to uni expecting that you're going to find that one friend or that one, special, significant other, straight away, or, it's a really slow kind of... It has to be natural, obviously. It has to be natural, and everything that's worth it takes time. I think we all just need to remember that,
Yeah.
If it's worth it, it'll take time, really. It's not really going to be instant.
The amount of people that there are at university, we just complain about. However, for me, there was a massive positive. So I come from Thetford, which is a place that's close to Norwich, and predominantly white people. When I say white people, I genuinely do mean by colour of the skin. I don't mean English people. I mean there's not a lot of Pakistani people. There's not a lot of people from Bangladesh. I met my first ever Somalian person at university. And in terms of meeting people from around the UK and around the world, I feel very much privileged, because I'm a person who wants to learn more about other cultures. So I can give you examples. As ignorant as it may sound, I learned that Brunei is actually a country.
Yep, I learned in uni. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to you guys.
I learned sort of I learned about the Buddhist culture, Bangladeshi culture. I learned about Somalian civil war, because my flatmate, he's Somalian. I wanted to get to learn more about his culture, and just getting to integrate more with people who are not sort of the people that I'm used to I was used to growing up with. So I had a lot of English friends around at uni, a few Polish friends. But now coming to uni, I have a lot more Pakistani friends and Somalian friends and Bengali friends, and those are the kind of people that I've met through the ISOC, Islamic Society. But besides that, there's been a lot of other people, a range of people from all across the world who have taught me a lot about how important multiculturalism is, and how important it is to accept people of any race or culture. And that's been a massive positive from my point of view. I wasn't ignorant towards those kinds of cultures, but I've definitely learnt more since coming to university.
Yeah, I think that is massive, and it is. I think really it does outweigh a lot of the downsides of uni. I really do think I really do think that's how important it is, because it is, like I said right in the beginning of the podcast, university is such a unique environment. You won't get this sheer level of exposure to so many different types of people. I don't think you'll get that again in your life.
I don't
outside
think
of
so.
uni.
I don't think so.
So I really do think that is a big bonus of uni. Yeah.
I mean, so our complaints about uni, I think they're more because we see the potential in how efficient it can be.
Yeah. Again, expectation.
Expectation
it
versus
all goes
reality.
full circle to expectation versus reality.
Yeah.
And you know, it is with anything. It is quite bad to have such high expectations. But then again, you're paying so much money. You're investing for us 4 years of your life. I think we are deserving to have a high expectation.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah.
I think my disappointments again are more based around education than they are to do with the socialising aspect. I think that's one thing.
I mean, yeah.
But I think obviously when you come to uni, time management is a massive problem. I think one thing we didn't go into too much detail was how we're not made to feel like adults. So it's almost like we get told off. So like, you know, our lecture, I think we had a lecture on Tuesday, and our lecturer was telling us to shut up like kids, right? Not saying just leave if you're talking. She was basically telling us to be quiet. And there was a register again, and it just feels like we aren't given the full respect that we are due, because we are 19-year-olds who have picked pharmacy to study at university, and we know what the consequences will be if we don't turn up to our lectures. And if it's the conscious decision that we are making, then
let it be on us.
Then the repercussions are going to be on ourselves, because we're going to feel the consequences, not our lecturers. So I don't see why we are almost forced to turn up to lectures, because if anything, from my point of view, it makes me resent it. I don't want to go to lectures because I feel almost rebellious. I don't want to go to lectures because I want to prove a point. And I know that's a massive problem with other courses as well. So, for example, the medics. I have a lot of medic friends, and that's a complaint from them as well, because their lectures, they don't really study theories. It's just facts that they need to remember. And to remember facts, you don't need to learn them from someone. You can just memorize them yourself. So wasting an hour of your life because you have to wasting an hour of your life because you have to go to lectures and waking up early to do that. You don't have time to have breakfast in the morning, especially if it's far away. You don't have time to then make up that sleep that you're missing because you have to wake up early. And all of this has a negative effect on your general well-being, because you first of all, you're not allowed to make the decisions that you want to, and because of that, you feel more tired, you feel more drained, you don't feel as important, because you almost feel like your opinion is not being respected as much as it should. Leading on from that point, I feel like because we have to turn up to lectures, I haven't actually been able to figure out myself what my preferred method of study is. So lectures, which we have to turn up to and spend an hour, when you have to just sit there and listen to someone, it's very difficult to take notes and understand the concept at the same time.
I think that's really underappreciated, that skill there. I think we all knew it, but we didn't really realise how difficult it is until we came to uni. You know, it's I think it's impossible, to be honest, especially depending on the content of the lecture. Sometimes it's just because you want to be there, you want to be present in the moment and listening to the lecturer. But oftentimes, what you find yourself is that you're just looking at the slides and just copying it down, and you could have just done that at home.
Yeah, exactly.
You could have just easily just done that at home. Whereas the main benefit of actually attending the lecture is obviously what the person in the front of the room says. But if you focused on that, then you don't have anything to show for it after the lecture. And
because you don't write it down, you don't remember it as well.
And you don't remember it as well. So I think one thing that I'm grateful about our course, I know a lot of courses and a lot of unis don't do it, is that we do have lecture recordings.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
And I feel like that is, for me, at least, that is the most effective way I learn. Honestly, if I didn't have to physically go to lectures, if they just uploaded the recordings, I think I would just do 10 times better, really.
So over Christmas, when I was doing work towards my summatives,
towards the exams,
that is the only way that I actually did find that I benefited from study when I listened to lecture recordings. And I know that some courses, again, medicine lectures don't get uploaded, which I think is really unfair. But then some lecturers for us don't upload all of the lectures, or they don't upload the lectures that are in date. So that can be a problem as well. But I think that's one aspect of technology that we are not utilizing as effectively as we should. When we have such vast variety of technology to our disposal, we're not using that ability. We do have one lecturer, so who uploads snippets of like 20-minute recordings. So even if you don't turn up to a 50-minute lecture, you can go over the content in 20 minutes, which I think is very important. And I think if more lecturers did do that, then university would... You feel more independent when you study lecture recordings as well.
Exactly. I mean, you can pause it. You can actually have time to make notes. Kind of pause it. I find myself pausing the video, trying to process what they've just said, then writing it down, and then carrying on. You can't do that in a live lecture. You know, it's always with a lecture. It's like, it's just you have to be constantly on the ball. It's just if you zone out for 5 seconds, that's it. You've lost it.
Exactly.
You've lost
There's so many times I've done that, and then I've just ended up falling asleep. You know, that's a funny point though, because I feel like I could study pharmacy if I didn't come to uni at all.
Physically, exactly.
Just by lecture recordings, I could probably do just as well.
Or even better, to be fair, because you have more time.
You do have more time.
What we're finding now is we're spending double the time. We're going to the lecture, and then we're going over it.
We have to go over it.
So that's what
2 or 3 times if we want to get a good grade. If we I don't think me and Adil would fail if we were not to go over lectures, but we want to do well. So in order to do well, we need to go over lecture two times, which is, if we go through the whole lecture recordings and the lecture, it's an hour and a half. And we have so many lectures every week that it's so much time. And that leads me on to another important point, which is, before coming to uni, I had 4 months gap between my A-level exams until the start of uni. And before uni, I enjoy studying what I wanted to study, which is reading. So I'd done history A-level. I liked reading about history and stuff like that, reading about Islam and those kind of stuff. But since coming to uni, because there's so much you need to do, you don't have time to study what you want to study, which is obviously something that we did know coming into university, that it would be so intense. But if you are a person who likes to do this extra bit of research in order to, I guess, just develop yourself and the knowledge that you have about the world, I think you should not be as encouraged to do that at university, because you'll be disappointed when you find out that you do not have enough time to do things like that. Especially if you want to be good at socializing, if you want to do your work, you won't have time to study. Yeah, exactly. You know, all the kind of stuff that we've mentioned previously.
And coming off of that, I've got basically, I think it's the perfect example of that. Basically just describes uni in general and how much of a double-edged sword it is.
Cool, that's a bold claim, mate.
So, you know, is university, if you didn't listen to anything we've said this whole podcast, and if you just hear me say this now, university is the sharpest double-edged sword you'll ever meet. And I say that, let me give you an example. So like Ira said, you know, he likes to, you know, study history and all that in his free time. I like to study languages. So the language I'm currently learning right now is Arabic. Now, before starting uni, and of course after A-levels, I had that big summer holiday gap where I could invest a lot of time and energy into Arabic, which is all good. But then I didn't have, especially with language, you need kind of that real life interaction. I didn't have, especially from where I was, I didn't have a lot of people to do that. So coming to uni, on the flip side, I've met, you know, so many Arabic speaking people. You know, it's such a good opportunity for me to learn Arabic. I think, especially with language, it's something that you need to live it to really learn it. But then, that's all nice and everything, but because of all the uni work and all the everything else, I have no energy to talk to these people. I have no energy to then go back and revise the language I've learned, or time, in fact. So, you know, I've gained one thing, and then the other thing I've lost. So it's just...
It is a double-edged sword.
It is a double-edged sword when it comes to that. It is quite...
See, I totally agree with you. So in the way that you would like to talk to people more about Arabic, I would like to sort of discuss with people more about the stuff such as history. I love the Russian Revolution. I'd love to talk to people about the Russian Revolution, but this is the problem. Uni, from what I've learned, of uni, what it was in the history, is where intellectuals would come together. And I don't really like using the word intellectual to describe myself or anyone, because I feel like it's a bit pretentious.
Yeah,
but
it's a bit,
that was my idea. It would be ideas of similar people coming together, and they would resonate, and eventually they would sort of formulate this underlying motive for everyone to get together. But since coming to uni, what I've realised, first of all, because it's so competitive, but second of all, because it's just people don't have that time to actually get together and do things like that, which is one of the main reasons I was so encouraged to come to uni, because I encouraged myself to come to uni because I thought that it would be this place where I could meet people who I would learn a lot from, in terms of psychology, in terms of human interaction, in terms of history. But since coming to uni, I've realised that the amount of people who genuinely think, and I mean genuinely think, is less, which obviously leads me on to the point again that another point that me and Adil talked about previously, is how little thinking you can do about those so intellectual ideas when you are at uni, because you spend a lot of your time studying. When you're not studying, you're socializing and or looking after yourself, which means that you don't have time to deploy your thoughts to creative ideas, if you like.
Yeah, or just, you don't have those pockets of moments throughout the day where you can just sit down and think. And I think part of it is our fault as well, part of it is our fault. I don't really have it on me now, but, that little device you have in your pocket.
What is that? What is that thing called?
That little device that you have in your pocket. That little time sucker.
The spawn of Satan.
No, I can't live without my phone, to be fair. But, something like that. I mean, this is just getting really, quite out there now, just beyond uni. But, we as a society, we're so obsessed with occupying this up here. We're so obsessed with stimulating these here and stimulating these here, that we don't stimulate what's in there.
Yeah, that's true.
It's, and I think uni just kind of emphasizes that problem because of the demand of your time and your energy that uni, has on you.
So basically, what's happened here is, unfortunately, the camera ran out of battery just as Adil was talking about stimulation. So probably for the best, really. So unfortunately, the points that we made afterwards, which wasn't too much, we can't include in the video. But I think it's time that we wrap up, really, because we did go off on a tangent, and quite a serious one as well. So we thought we'd wrap it up there and leave the stuff that we talked about for another podcast.
So in general, it's not all that bad, uni, I would say.
It's not all that bad, no, definitely not.
I would say it's definitely an experience that at the end of the day you will benefit from, depending on your outlook on it and the way you approach it. You can definitely benefit a lot more than you will be harmed by it.
I think we are definitely being cynical, because we are trying to avoid I guess sort of overemphasizing how good uni is and over-exaggerating it, sorry. So
basically
we
the
just
stuff you hear all the time anyway.
Exactly. We just wanted to give you sort of a down-to-earth approach. From my point of view anyway, I would say I'm quite a pessimist, but I guess that's why, in terms of uni, there are a lot of positives, such as what I mentioned. There's a lot more positives, depending on what your hobbies and stuff are. But from our point of view, from my point of view and Adil's point of view, that's a conclusion that we've come to from our first 5 months at uni.
Yeah, and like I said before, we probably will make multiple other videos, as we grow as students, and it's all just a growing phase. It's all just a spectrum, really. It's not fixed, is it? It will change.
Yeah.
So.
And hopefully that could almost be a path to anyone wondering what it's going to be like. Because for us, we definitely don't know what it's going to be like next year, the year after, when we graduate.
Even next month, to be honest.
Exactly. So anything can change at any point. Because a month prior to this, no ideas of having a podcast channel. But now here we are. Because it's just something that makes you forget about education all the time and the stress of uni. But from our point of view, we just sort of encourage you to, I guess, not take all the negatives that we've talked about. Just know that those sort of
just be aware of them. Don't take
negatives
them to heart.
exist. And the one massive positive, I don't know if you can hear, but the LCR currently is having a night, and I don't know if the mics are picking up. It's really loud. I can feel the music playing.
It's
so
basically like the club of our campus.
yeah, so it's probably best that we wrap it up now anyway, just so the music doesn't become annoying.
All right, so yeah, thank you guys so much. If you have, if you're watching the video still right now, we really do appreciate, the time you spent checking our video out, checking our podcast out. I and Ira will very much appreciate if you guys subscribed, liked, commented on what your thoughts are on what we've discussed. Have you agreed with some of the points we've made? Have you disagreed with some of the points? Have you got other points that you want to make?
We definitely do take recommendations. So if there's anything you want us to discuss, then just leave it.
Yeah, and it can literally be anything, guys. It doesn't have to be uni. It doesn't have to be deep. It doesn't have to be, so out there. It could be anything you want for us to talk about. We would really appreciate it, because we want that kind of interaction with you guys. Obviously, we're starting out. It's our first video. There will be a few hiccups, like the camera dying.
Yeah, exactly.
Post editing, God knows what's gonna happen there. But it's just we are learning how to do this, and you guys are here with us, so we're really grateful for that. So yeah.
Any feedback would be appreciated. Thank you very much for listening. If you have, and if you've managed to endure the whole video up until this point. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure from our behalf. It's been quite entertaining because it was the sort of conversations we'd have normally. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for listening.
All right, take care, guys.